childhood up, we have had to conform to a certain social game. And so we're in a constant state of competition. Good assistance, secret. You can't make a mistake.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friends of Failure. I'm your host, Sam, and this is my co-host, Megan.
Heyo.
Welcome back to another one-on-one episode where we get super duper crazy. No, that's not.
Is that what the?
No, that's not what happens at all. It's a different pace, right? So we don't have a guest, and we
can embarrass ourselves. Yeah, we can just be stupid.
Let's talk it out. You know what I mean? Let's get some reps in, or I was trying to somehow put that with working. It's okay. So we're just gonna scrap this whole episode. No, I'm kidding. No, dude. How are you doing? You just had like a little vacation.
Yeah, so pretty good. I am still recovering from like not working. It was nice. We went to Colorado and kind of explored there, got out in nature, and many stories to come from that.
Did you fight any bears or like
only
have to
once.
fight off like oh wow.
Yeah.
Just that bear. One. Oh, I thought you were gonna say Yogi Bear. I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's real, boo-boo. Like in the Geico commercial. Yeah, hey boo boo, right? That's wild. No, Colorado is beautiful. Did you go to like a place like Colorado Springs? Did you go to like?
We went to Telluride and then the surrounding like area, Ridgeway, Rico, all of that. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a Kia named Telluride. Is it named after Colorado?
There is. Yeah. My brother brought that up on the trip that they had named the car after that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gold. That's right, everybody. That's our sponsor, Kia, KIA. Go buy a Telluride today.
I'm just imagining in reality, like I didn't go to Colorado. I just sat in a Telluride at a Kia dealership and I was like, this is it.
This is it. I'm living the dream.
Look at those mountains.
Oh yeah. And the bear is like a weird like sticker.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah.
I'm just hallucinating.
I have a client that I'm pretty sure just bought a Telluride.
Wow.
Yeah.
The altitude's great. That's all I can say.
He bought Telluride, the city Telluride. God, he's got so much money. Oh my gosh. No, that's cool, man. I know sometimes vacations don't feel like vacations. Like you had a change of scenery, but like after going on vacations myself, one thing I had to learn is that sometimes you go out there and you're busier than you were whenever you're normally like dealing with your everyday life.
And that's basically what we did, which I don't regret at all because there was so much to see and do, but there wasn't a single day that we just like chilled. But yeah, lots of hiking, lots of almost dying hiking. Yeah, stuff you can't do in Texas.
Were you just like scooting your toes like closer and closer to the edge, like or
not intentionally.
How do you almost die on a hike?
So the first day our hiking was like pretty light. We did the Black Canyons, which was somewhat on the way from the airport to where we were staying. And you kind of just drive from lookout point to lookout point, and they're very short little hikes where you go stand on the edge of a cliff and you can just look down into the abyss. So the whole time I'm like staring at my family members like, please don't. Like it was just nerve-wracking like the whole entire time. So I enjoyed it, but it was also terrifying. And then the second day is when the quote unquote like failed hiking experience happened. And to preface it, for people that don't know, Telluride, Colorado in general is a much higher elevation than Texas. And when you go up in elevation, you can get altitude sickness.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to Colorado before to visit friends and for like childhood vacations and stuff like that. And I know I normally do get altitude sickness. I'm like tired. I have trouble breathing when I go like further up.
Mm-hmm.
Our first big hike when we get into Telluride itself, because we weren't staying there. It's very expensive. We walk through the town of Telluride, and then it's supposed to be a pretty short hike, like a mile-ish, up to this gorgeous like outlook and a giant waterfall, like a 200-foot waterfall. So it seemed easy enough. And when we Googled it, it was supposed to be the shortest, simplest hike, like something we can casually do before lunch. Not a big deal.
Oh, wow. That's how they got you. You Googled it.
Yeah, we didn't do a lot of pre-planning on things like that. We just kind of went with the flow. But yeah, even just walking up the residential street that leads into the woods that go up the mountain basically was an incline. So that alone, I could like feel the breathing getting more difficult. Mm-hmm. And then the hike itself starts out kind of normal, like a little rocky. There's some terrain, and then it's almost vertical. It's just like, it's slowly like it's vertical, and then it's like you're on a ladder made of rocks and you're like on your hands and knees. About halfway through, I thought I was gonna die because my lungs like could not handle how far up we were and the altitude.
Yeah.
And I had to keep like stopping. And there were multiple times where I was about to be like, fuck this, I'm gonna go find a bar and have a beer. Like, this is not worth it. But it was also like, it was pretty, it was gorgeous. There's like a creek running by. So I persevered, I guess, in a way. And yeah, the almost dying part is like on the end of it. So just stick around for that. Basically, like I get maybe 7/8 up this. And that's when I literally was like, I'm going to tap out. Like, I just climbed on my hands and knees, trying not to slip down this incline. And then took a minute, walk a little bit further where it starts to flatten out, go through this like bush path, and there's a giant fucking waterfall. And then it was all worth it. Like, I couldn't breathe, but it was all like, okay.
I mean, if that was your last vision, is everything like slowly tunnel visions and you like pass out, you're like, wow, it's beautiful, and then flat line, right? Like,
yeah, I was like, I could die here. I'll just sit up here the rest of vacation. They can life flight me out or something. It'll be fine.
Oh my God. That's luxury right there. Like, just life flight me, right? Like emergency helicopter.
I'll just be in debt forever.
Do you by chance know off the top of your head how big the waterfall was?
It was, I keep saying 200 feet, but I'm pulling that out of my ass, to be honest. I have no idea. It was super tall. It was probably like, if I would compare it to a building, like 3-4 stories tall. And it was really cool because we were walking by this creek that was kind of going up the incline that was coming from this waterfall. And there's a huge cliff above you still, and then a waterfall coming over it into this little bitty pool that then went into the creek down the mountain. And it was insanely beautiful. And we just sat up there for like an hour and, fucked around and chilled and took pictures. My brother and I dug for rocks. Yeah, like children go all the way to Colorado and looked at rocks.
Did you find any?
I brought 2 rocks home. They're somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
One named Frank and the other one named Frank 2, right?
Some cool rocks. Yeah. And it was overall, like, I felt really good about the experience, and it was kind of euphoric at the top. What I didn't think about, because eventually everyone's hungry, like, let's go down and we'll make it back to town, eat something. I thought going up was hard physically just because my lungs like couldn't deal with it. Going down physically was way better, but all the rock is like very gravelly and crumbly. So it's very likely you can just slip and fall. And most of the path was like a cliff into that creek that was like 60 feet down, like through a bunch of bushes and trees and shit, or even steeper than that. And yeah, I think I only wore tennis shoes. I didn't bring any hiking shoes. So that's on me. That's my fuck up. I didn't have great grip. But there were a few points where like the path was like the size of a person for your feet, and there's nothing to grab onto, and it's just gravel, like gravelly dirt. And you know that feeling when you like slip and you're like, oh fuck, and your like heart drops into your stomach and you're like, this is how I go. That happened probably like 3 times where like I
one's
almost,
bad enough.
Yeah, I like almost fell off to the edge. And my husband did help me like as much as he could at some points. Like he'd get further down and like try to help me down. But there's some points where he couldn't do that. So it's just me trying not to slip in my shitty tennis shoes down a fucking like ravine into a creek.
The trick is to wear high heels. That's what I've heard. Like if you're going hiking, especially like long, just tough, right? Especially with gravel, high heels is where it's at.
I'm seeing like platform shoes, like giant platform go-go boots.
Yeah, they're like 6 inches minimum, and it's like the whole time and like you're having a whole time, but the reality is
it's a hustle, and then you're just like yeah.
That's pretty wild. When you got to the bottom, there had to be relief. I mean, you were like, I did it.
Yeah, and it was, so the top was just like, this is great, I'm glad I did this, and then the bottom was like, I survived. I like the show. I was like, I was a victim. I almost
I'm going to sue Telluride for all their money
for its scary, beautiful nature.
It's wild because I think about there was a time in Hawaii that I got to go on like a little hike, and I was like, okay, have you ever seen those shoes that they're like toe shoes, so you like slip on? Okay, so I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna spend some money on these, and like it's better for running and da. My feet have never ever hurt as bad as it did walking on all the rocks and roots and whatever.
You could feel everything. Yeah,
every little thing. And I had to tough it out. I didn't have a choice. Like by the time I realized I'd made a mistake, it was too late. And like there was no like 4-story waterfall at the end of this hike. It was just like hey, there's water. Just like everywhere in Hawaii. Yay. And it was beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Like I was engrossed in green and just there's like a creek and whatever. But all I could think about the whole time, especially on the way back, was like, ow, ow.
Yeah.
Ow. Oh gosh. Ow. Why? And they ended up so muddy that like I tried to clean them off and they were brand new and just destroyed them. I was like, I wore them 2 other times like for a run, and I was like, this is not for me.
I did we went to Oregon, which is where my husband's from, and we did another hike, and I didn't have my hiking shoes again. Like that's just a run. I own hiking boots. Like I have hiking boots. I did not bring them. And I wore like Nike tennis shoes, and Oregon is wet. It rains a lot. The ground is normally like moist or a little muddy. It had just rained, and we're going out. It's called Cape Lookout, and it's this like few mile peninsula, and it is kind of up and down. It's not like a crazy incline like the waterfall. My shoes were caked in mud. My legs were caked in mud. I had mud on my knees. I had to like put my shoes in like a grocery bag when we got back to the car, and then I'm pretty sure I threw them away after that because there was like no return, and I slipped constantly. Like and the fun thing there, I guess I just have a thing about being near cliffs and like almost slipping off of them. The Cape Lookout one, it's even steeper, and it's a peninsula, so it's on both sides depending where you are on the trail, and it goes straight into the ocean like 200 feet, like a giant drop off, and it's far from shore as well. Like I would not have a good time swimming back if I survived. Yeah,
right. I was gonna say at a high enough altitude, water is just concrete, so
yeah, and if I bounce off some rocks, it probably wouldn't help.
Don't worry, guys, it broke my fall. I'm fine.
I can't swim either, so
God, you break both your arms, like that's not bad enough, right? Like you're like, I already didn't know what to. There was a guy. So I got to climb Mount Fuji in Japan, and going up it's so steep that they have this little trail, I guess is what you would call it, but it weaves, right? So you just kind of like keep your bearing, because just like you were talking about, like if it's too steep, you're just like crawling basically, right? You get to the top, you eat some ramen, you look at the clouds because you're like that high up, and then you have to go on your descent down. this took me forever. Like I wasn't like trying to do like the greatest race or anything. I was just like, I'm gonna get to the top of this mountain. It took me about 4 hours. I ate some ramen. I kind of like I was up there and I was like, man, this is cool. I just really want to get this over with. So I was like, I'm gonna start on the down, right? At a certain point on the down, it's just like I guess uh volcanic ash and gravel and whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's weird because it's almost like walking in like dusty snowish kind of vibe where like it's holding you up but it's giving way as you go.
It's slippery. That's exactly how it was on the waterfall one. Like I would step down and like kind of I learned to test it after the first few like fuck ups and then watch my foot just start to slide as I had like a grip on something and figure out where I could
So there was this guy and he's like got his GoPro and he's like, all right, I'm gonna try and utilize this steep hill in my favor to see how fast I can go. Like I'm gonna go for it, right? And I'm not with him during this. We were kind of doing the same thing, and I remember hearing it kind of happen, but the hilarious part was watching the video later. So he's like, all right, here we go. I'm gonna go as fast as I can. And I mean, you can tell when you're watching the video, like da, 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 da. And I mean, he's going at this point, he is just momentum of gravity pulling him down this like steep hill. And of course, at a certain point, his legs are just trying to catch him as he's falling. And then on the video, you just hear, oh! And then it's
God.
And the video is just like gravel the sky, and you're kind of hearing him like bouncing as he's rolling down. He didn't get hurt by any means, but
I was about to say, and he's dead now.
Yeah, that was his last will and testament. It was pretty incredible though, because for how much momentum he got and how quickly he was flying down this mountain, once he lost his bearing and had to like barrel roll out of that momentum, he didn't go very far. The gravel kind of slowed him down and he was okay. But man, that video was so funny. Only because I guess he didn't get hurt. Like if he would have like broken every bone in his body, I don't know if the video would have been that funny.
Hopefully
I'm gonna retract this whole joke and just kind of
you're like, I'm not a sadist, like I don't enjoy.
I'm not happy that he fell down the mountain, I guess is what we would call it. But it's super strange because like we live in these like, you know, not to copyright Jay-Z or who else did it? Oh man, I'm having a brain fart. Welcome to the jungle. We have fun again.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know who it is. This is God, it's right there.
What's even funnier is we have computers in front of us. Like we could literally Whitechapel. No, I'm joking. My brother's gonna be so disappointed.
That's not right. It was on Rock Band. That's what I remember.
Guns N' Roses.
Jesus Christ. All right, we're fired.
Not even trying anymore. So they talk about like the concrete jungle, but like it's funny because we get conditioned to it, right? I mean, I go and walk at parks and stuff and whatever, but you know, it's not the same as you go to Hawaii, you go to Colorado, and you're climbing literal mountains, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna go from walking in a completely level park at like this altitude to I'm in Colorado. Here we go. Like, and we kind of expect it.
Well, yeah, Texas, I do hiking here and it's relatively flat, and your like biggest risk is snakes and mosquitoes and like the heat. And that's about it. Man. Yeah. But like in Colorado, so originally we did this waterfall because it was easier to get to than the one I wanted to go to. There's another one called Bridal Veil, and it's like the famous big waterfall in that area, and you can see it from like the downtown Main Street. It's really like picturesque, really beautiful, blah blah blah. And we looked it up, and it's like, well, you're gonna have to off-road for like 2 miles, and then you got to climb up this giant ledge for like 4 miles, and then there you go, waterfall. And we were all like, I don't trust any of us to off-road. I don't think we have 4-wheel drive. And then
it's almost like Like you're gonna go down this like muddy path, and you're gonna hope that you find the friendly donkey. His name is Jack. If you
Yeah.
call out to him, he might come out, he might not. He's kind of he does what he wants, right? But once you find him, just trust that you can get on his back, and he will hike you for 2.5 miles. And you're like, this sounds sketchy. Like,
And then if you get to Shrek's swamp, you've gone too far.
yeah, and you'll know because well, Shrek is there, and he is an angry ogre.
You
right?
will see a nice boulder, and then you get that one. That's a nice boulder.
Is that from Shrek?
Oh my God, we're not friends anymore.
That was the end of the podcast. That's how it ended. He did not know Shrek. I unfortunately remember it being a great movie. I think I've seen 3 of them, but I have not seen them in over a decade easily.
So my best friend and my husband know if I'm watching Shrek, something is wrong. And I do
That's
it
your
like
comfort movie?
every few months. Yeah. Yeah. Any of them. I love them.
Well, there's like 15 of them, I think.
There's 4.
There's 4. But then there's like 18 Puss in Boots, and like there's like a donkey got his own movie, right?
Those aren't canon. Those aren't the original. Nah.
It's kind of like Madagascar, I think, where all of a sudden the penguins got their own thing, and then
it's nothing like Madagascar. How dare you? I'm offended.
Okay, I need to watch more animated movie. Oh God, what have I done with my life?
I'm gonna have Ashley make you watch Shrek.
Oh God. And then you find out that I've just been watching Shrek to Broadway, and you go, oh Ooh. My God,
please don't do that. A crime.
I've seen pictures where like they dress up as the characters, which rightfully they should, but like
it's terrifying. I don't like it.
Yeah, hearing the soundtrack was pretty cool because I did have to look into it. Like, what does a song from Shrek sound like? But I don't know. I think I'm more amazed by their singing performances than I am by the visual arts aspect of it. You know?
Yeah, I refuse to. And for some reason, this is triggering a rabbit hole I went down. Have you heard of Shrek themed weddings?
No. I don't.
You consider it. It's a beautiful affair.
Does the groom like dress up as Shrek?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not feeling that.
Just need some green body paint and go for it.
Just do it, and you have to speak in an accent the whole time, and
yeah, and
you purchase a donkey, but it turns out it ended up being a goat that they painted as a donkey, and that went really bad, and it ate all the cake. That's all I'm gonna say. Well, I guess to circle back, I'm glad you didn't die. So here we are.
Yeah, I like how we got all the way from a hike to Shrek.
Shrek, right? But it makes sense because he's the watcher of the hikes.
Nope.
I haven't seen the movie in a while. I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
He technically goes on a hike. I think it's a quest, but
he's like hunting for like saving the princess. Okay, so like
hunting the princess.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. So here we are, another one-on-one episode where we like to go on the internet and
look for failure.
Talk about the failure of the internet as a whole. No, I think so. The FMLs were pretty funny, and it led me to go, hey, I'm just gonna Google failed products, and it led me on a thing where I expected it to be stuff from like back in 1934 they tried to make blah 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 and it blah. No, man, a lot of these are in our lifetime.
I believe it.
So I was gonna share a couple of them with you, and I guess everyone listening. The first one, maybe you've heard of a thing called Google Glass.
Oh God, I vaguely remember that being a concept. Isn't it literally glasses that you can Yeah, I don't think we're there yet. Is that why it didn't work?
Well, my first question, pop quiz. I know you were totally ready for this. What year do you think it was introduced to the public?
My concept of time is lacking, so I feel like it couldn't have been that long ago because the technology didn't exist. I'm assuming maybe in the last 5 years, but I'm going to give you a time range.
So not a bad guess. 2013 is when it was introduced, but I think it took some time before people are like, F it. I'm gonna like that was the weird flex, right? Where people are like, do you own Google Glass? And people are like, I just can't afford that. I don't even remember how much it costed. Um, but it was like one of those like really big, like we're gonna try to make a public wearable technology that we want everyone to get on board with, and you're gonna be able to like somehow drive your car and watch YouTube at the same time and not die. I don't, it never made sense to me.
I'm just trying to imagine. I know very little about it other than it's like glasses that can you Google stuff and it like shows you images?
So it was supposed to it was supposed to do like all the stuff that your phone could basically do, and that's where it kind of failed, right? So it lasted until about 2015, and they were like, okay, we should just stop while we're ahead. um but that was the issue, right? Is that there wasn't really a solution to a problem. It was just one of those like,
Look what we
look
can
at me
do.
now,
Yeah.
look at me now, baby. And I don't know. I mean, it's almost kind of like with VR, right? Like even if you're really into gaming, now the Oculus Rift, a lot of people have it. Me and my brother went halvesies on one. I think you have one,
I have
maybe.
one too, but like all I can think of now is so when I play that, I normally will end up hitting something, a dog, a lamp, like something like
Myself.
that. Yeah, like something like it never goes 100% the way it's supposed to. But like I wear glasses day to day just to see, just to like survive in the world. I couldn't imagine how annoying it would be to me to like have stuff in my frame of vision. The only way you could use it is if you're sitting down like safely. Like if you're walking around, how are you supposed to
So what?
safely?
So what's wild about it, right? Is going into this, I don't know everything about Google Glass. I think a lot of us don't. But what's super strange to me is how many people text and drive, or um, like I use Bluetooth in my car while I'm driving to talk to people. But I also am traveling all the time using GPS, right? So even if I'm like hands free, I'm still distracted as F trying to like, am I going the right way? Am I about to miss my turn? Google Maps is what I use, and I think they do a great job. But like, I imagine them trying to be like, okay, hey, check it. Boom, it's right there. And as you're driving, you have just a map, just like kind of blur. Like it just, I think things would have gotten really bad really quick, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't see the need because just as easily as you can wear Google glasses, you can pick up your phone
and use it,
and
yeah.
use it, and then also
And
have
crash your car.
full of it. Well, yeah, and also be a shit person and crash your car.
It's so strange to me too, because I've had times where I get my car and I'm like, hey, I don't want to listen to music. I don't want to listen to a podcast. I don't want to listen to an audiobook. I need some moments in my day where it's silence. But man, how crazy it gets where you're so used to being overly stimulated that all of a sudden all you're doing is driving. And your body's like, well, we're basically going to sleep. And you're like, oh my God. Like I'm trying to drive right now. And they're
And
like, nah, we're
shut
done here.
down.
Yeah. We're just gonna do a quick little power nap for 15 minutes. You guys got that whole self-driving car thing situated, right? Um, I do think it's funny that people think that the self-driving car is just gonna go away. And I think there's too many people who have invested in it.
I think so. I've done research on it before, and there's definitely failures. Like the car
Yeah.
will kill people if it is trying to protect the driver. Like that kind of, it has certain logics and stuff. Like it's hit people before. There's been people killed in their test and shit like that. Um, it's gonna keep going. I don't see it stopping. There's definitely gonna have to be like legislation and laws that go along with that. Um, but at the end of the day, it's just a script telling a car how to drive. And there's gonna be like anything with technology, there's going to be failures, there's going to be fuck ups, there's going to be something goes
Hackers.
wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
like,
yeah, even that.
I had a joke in my head and then I realized it wasn't funny. So I had read somewhere, I think this was honestly like a couple of years ago, like maybe 2019, and it was talking about like, hey, they legit were starting to do, whether it's Amazon or whoever, automated semi trucks driving, and it was driverless. And I don't know if there was like a body in the cab of the vehicle just in case, right? And they were just doing whatever. But I remember thinking, like, somebody's just like, today's my last day, and they just like boop, 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 and they just send it on its way. It just drives into the ocean or like whatever. But that's when I realized I didn't. That's when I first thought about it from a perspective of how much money they could save by getting rid of drivers. If they could just get it to a point where they, once in a blue moon, have a shipment crash, then it's like, hey, the
outweighs
turnover
the
rates.
cost. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think automation is just a scary thing in general. If
Yeah.
we're, I don't want to get like too anti-capitalism, but if we're in a capitalist society, that's always how it's going to go. They're going to want to reduce cost, increase profit, blah, blah, blah. And then we don't have jobs, which you need to, buy shit in that kind of format. But it's unavoidable. Like, it's happening everywhere. Even places like Amazon use robots to improve their facility, or like a car
Right.
manufacturer for years now. It's not even a new thing for them. Everything used to be manual. Like when Henry Ford was doing shit, there were tons of people employed. They've probably reduced that by God knows how much. And there's only people just making sure the machines are doing what they're supposed to do and doing, checks that only a human can do at this point. But I mean, that even extends over to AI. At a certain point, they could even replace the stuff that only humans can do right now, because AI is a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's I have no idea what the future brings, but I did find it funny. Coincidentally, there was this point in time, I think this year, where McDonald's, first fast food chain to go, hey, we're doing minimum $15 an hour for whoever works for us. And people were like, oh my God. And so people were like, I'm going to go work at McDonald's. And then they realized it was only corporate McDonald's, which most of McDonald's are franchise, right? Like 2 days later, maybe it was a little longer, it seemed very quickly, it was like McDonald's to go ahead and start building its first automated McDonald's. Like,
They're
the
like,
people were
never
going to
mind.
be yeah, like the people working there were just going to be maybe the cooks, and then everything else, like the automation of the drive-through,
Like
order taking,
touch screens and all of that. Yeah.
everything was just going to be computer. And I was like, wow. Like, they were like, hey, look at us go, but also we're getting rid of humans. So
They had a plan there. They were totally
Yeah.
like, everyone wants a higher wage, let's cover that, and then let's get rid of them so we don't have to
and then
pay
we're just
them.
gonna murk bitch. Oh my God, McDonald's, you crazy son of a McDonald's, man. That's a wild one.
What would Ronald think? I don't know.
It's hard to say. I wonder all the time of the experience of us being sent back in time and people being sent to the future, in a very comedic, like, no one gets hurt kind of way. Yeah, I think it's a funny story to try to tell, but I mean, either direction, right? Like, I never, like, if I got sent 100 years back or 100 years forward, I am conditioned for what is happening now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I grew up in a certain time frame, and I'm, things are so much faster now in terms of technology that even 5 years ago, I can't comprehend that this much has happened. This much happened in 5 years. Like, whoa, am I going to get left behind in 10 years? Hey, man, you're in your 40s. It's over for you. And I'd be like, but what?
We probably will, because if you think about like your older relatives that can't figure out how to send an email or, Google something or order something online, we're going to be those people in like 40 years where like our kids or like the younger generation will be like, oh yeah, I just got a new tattoo lasered onto my face from the internet. Like, you just have to, blink twice and then fart and then it happened. And we're going to be like, what? Like, I don't understand That was a really stupid.
Well, I was like, you
No.
made that way more complicated. I'm pretty sure it's just one wink and it does it automatically. It just reads your brain and does it. Well, and I get what you're saying. I guess my point is that I feel like that of what you're talking about is going to happen faster. Like unless you're on top of things and like you're taking care of yourself and doing like brain exercises and I'm not even kidding. Like I wonder what kind of obstacles are going to be created that stuff doesn't feel as simple as it is, right? Like really simple things just seem complicated. And so I'm like, we're only making things more and more complicated because we can. Like I think we're bored, or we're trying to find new ways to do things, so we're innovative and whatever. And sometimes I think we're just
Well, it's like the Google Glass thing.
complicating.
Like, why did we do that? Because we could. That's why. It's yeah.
Speaking of things that we could do, back in, well, I guess I'll let you guess. So there's a story that's like popped up before about Atari and the ET game that was on Atari.
I was not alive, so
Technically neither was I. It was
okay,
the game came out in 1982, so like Atari is one of those like first game systems.
It's the Pong game where it's just
Right.
a little boop, boop.
There are going to be people that are maybe we'll upset this part of the internet and like we'll go viral, right? The Commodore 64, I believe, came out before the Atari, but like you had to write your own programs and like you could technically right?
It sounds like a lot of work.
But so Atari was like, all right, man, we're gonna get the rights to the Steven Spielberg like movie, we're gonna turn it into a game, we're gonna spend a bunch of money, we're gonna mass produce it, and like get it. I'm pretty sure that's what they said back in the day, was
Just like that.
Get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the video game came out, and the problem is that a lot of video games, especially back then, even though what seems really just obnoxiously simple to us now was complicated, like trying to do it. I mean, there weren't tons of people who were like, I'm a programmer, right? And so they only spent like 5 weeks on it in development, and then that was problem number one, right? Because they just like sped that process up. They spent $21 million just to purchase the rights of the franchise, and then $5 million on the promotion of the game. They made over 4 million copies of the game and only sold 1.5 million of those. The rest of those copies went into a landfill. Like they tried to just bury, because they were like, oh my God, like whoopsie daisy. They tried to, they buried it in a landfill. And I remember here, the reason why I had to bring that up is I remember decades later, this guy's like, so I was like hunting and trying to collect as many of these like ET Atari games as possible. And he was on like this crazy goose hunt, and he found a landfill that had a bunch of the games in there. There's like a picture of him. I'm pretty sure I could Google it right now and it'll pop up, where he's just like, I did it. And it's like, how much money did you spend to
I was about
find
to
all
say,
these
did
games?
he like get a bulldozer and just fucking uncover a giant pile of them?
There's no way he did that, because like landfills are owned by people. They're like, what are you doing playing in all our landfill
I
stuff?
feel like if you paid him enough, you could go, dig in some trash.
He like divorced his wife, got rid of his family. He was like, can't afford that. And then he like took out his 401k, and he was like, bought a bulldozer, didn't even rent one. He borrowed a bulldozer, and he went.
I mean, whatever your priorities are, I guess. It reminds me of I feel like every waiting room I'm in where like I can't change the fucking channel. It's that show Oak Island or something like that. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
I don't remember the name. I'll Google it as I talk about it. But it's basically there's this island and there's this myth that there's treasure on it.
Oh God.
Yeah, the Curse of Oak Island, digging deeper. And there's been like from the freaking 1800s, just a line of people trying to find this treasure. And currently it's two brothers trying to find the treasure. And all I can think of is like they are spending millions of dollars because they have like drills that go into the earth to try to find the secret mine shaft or whatever. Like all these theories and shit, a whole crew of people, consultants, and like all the time they waste on it and all the people they're researching with. I don't think the times that I've seen it, I've never watched the whole show, so I will not claim to like know what's happening. They don't ever find anything. They're always like, oh my God, we hit wood. That means it's a mine shaft. And then they're like, oh, it's just a tree that fell over, probably. And like, why? Or like, where's the money coming from? That
Well,
is just like,
it's coming from us because we see it at waiting rooms and hospitals and auto part stores, right? Where they're like, next on Oklahoma or whatever, right? I think it's the same thing with like, I'm not saying ghosts aren't real. I'm saying that TV is not real. And so there's these ghost hunter shows. And
Zak
bro,
Bagans. Zak Bagans.
bro, I would watch the crap out of that if it was legitimate. Oh my gosh, we have found it. This is like if I mean, it would horrify me because if I had to believe and go, holy crap, I just witnessed like actual evidence of like paranormal activity that you can't see communicated through EMF or whatever it is, right? And then snatch someone up and like twirl them around in the air, I would not be able to sleep.
So two things. We should do a ghost hunt because that would be fun as hell.
For
Uh,
who? For the people that get to watch our nightmares, or
yeah, to watch us fail miserably or just scare ourselves. Because that's most of the second thing is Zak Bagans, which I think his show is called Ghost Hunters. It's like one of the bigger ghost shows that you can watch. I agree. There's no value added on like actual, we're trying to contact spirits, like whatever you believe, yada yada. It's more of like Zach goes to a haunted place and then he goes, hey bitch, like fucking come out here and talk to me. Or like the last one I watched was actually a place nearby here, and it's like this haunted bridge that they went to. And there's a point where the ghost attacked him and he's like on the ground and like, you know, grasping his neck, and he's like, it's choking me, I can't breathe. And then he attacks one of his crew members and like is strangling him. And then the end of the episode is them all just being like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. And for me, like I'm laughing my ass off because these grown-ass men are just in the forest at night playing pretend and choking each other.
well, later you find out they're all on hallucinogens and they're like tripping balls, and they're
I
just
would
like, all right,
explain more of it.
yeah, no matter what you do, keep filming because this is important. But like, that's my thing, right? Is once ratings and everything are involved, like you've got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too. So like, again, I'm trying to reiterate that I just think that TV is very fake.
Oh,
I think there is
100%.
some I think there is some very like witchy stuff going on, demon stuff, ghost stuff, I don't know, stuff, things we can't understand. I think there's just so many layers to perception and like what we consider reality. But
Well,
like
I
like
am a
I will
ghost,
not
so
I will oh wow. Oh my
you've been
god.
talking to a
I
dead person.
I will not I will not do a Ouija board.
Oh hell
Uh
no, no.
so in the Marines, right? Like we have time. We end up in the middle of nowhere, and it's like the whole game of, well, would you do this for X amount of money? And like, I don't care. Like, you could be like, hey, you will be money, right? Like no matter what you do, where you go, no matter how much it costs, we'll give it to you. But you got to do a Ouija board and you have to summon something. I wouldn't do it. I guess what? I'm gonna be poor and living in my car. I don't even care. Not doing it. And because of that, when I saw the movie Paranormal Activity in theaters on a whim, one of my buddies was like, hey, I'm at the movie, you want to? So I bought a ticket, go in there. I didn't even know what I was getting into. Spoiler alert, I guess, for anybody that
I
cares
think
about a
that's
movie
been
that,
out for like 10
well, I mean, it came out in like 2008 or something. There's a scene where like their security system's filming and there's a Ouija board sitting on their coffee table and it starts moving around and then catches on fire. Yeah, I get it. It's a movie, whatever. I was like, all right, I'm done. This is all just, this is too uncomfortable. This is too close to home to like my fear or whatever. And then, of course, the ending of that movie, I literally didn't sleep that night.
Yeah, I didn't see that one, but I listened to a lot of paranormal like podcasts. And they make fun of people like Zak Bagans. They do it because they like paranormal and like the stories and all that, and I'm into it. And they'll do listener episodes of like people experiencing shit, and that I fucking love that shit. Like I eat it up. I'm not a horror person, but I will scare myself with that. And a lot of them, anytime there's a Ouija board involved, I'm like, why would you ever do this? Because the end
Yeah.
is always like, and we never slept the same again. We had to move 12 times. Or like blah 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 blah. My kid sister like never verbally speak. Like
So and that brings up like the movie The Exorcist back in the day. First
mhm.
off, as parents, that had to be a really weird situation where it was like, yeah, so we signed up our like 7-year-old girl to play this character, and then you see the movie and you're like, holy like it's been out for what, 45 years, somewhere in that
100 years.
100 billion years. But like the story that went around that, I think the same thing for the original Amityville horror movie. People started dying. Like, yeah, it was this weird thing where like so and so got struck by lightning and there was no clouds or anything. It was just a real sunny summer day. Kaboom. Or like so and so. I don't know. I don't know any of the stories, but like there's a lot of things that get connected to these. It's almost like we're asking for it at that point, right?
Well, when we were out in Colorado, I love how we've taken a paranormal like turn. I I don't want to say, so cryptids, have you heard of a flesh pedestrian? That's like not the real name. If you say the name, you're supposed to be cursed, like to deal with that. And I don't know if I believe in it, but I'm not gonna fuck with it.
And I'm not gonna Google it, so I'm gonna just nod and yeah,
Well,
totally.
my brother knew what the real word for it was. Some call them Winnebagos, flesh pedestrian, something like that. Basically, it's a creature that'll mock like a human in trouble. So you'll be out like in the wilderness or, you know, on a country road in the middle of nowhere, and you'll hear like a man screaming and you can see a silhouette of a man, but then he starts to like contort and like come towards you. And basically the end scenario is like it's not good for you. You either die or you die later on, or like something really bad happens because they try to lure you in to help them. Anyways, I told my brother, like, don't fuck with me. Like, we were out in the dark Colorado like nights, and he was just kept saying it. It's like, dude, please.
So Candyman was the thing, Bloody Mary was the thing, but Candyman got remade.
I just saw that trailer. Yeah.
Oh my god! Like you're just sitting there going, like, I'm not doing it. Like no.
I 100% did Bloody Mary like as a kid, and nothing happened. So, and then I just like,
when I was a kid, I was terrified of the dark. I was scared of just so many things because there was always like horrific things like playing on TV and stuff. Like Pet Sematary would play on TV. So if the TV was on and it was on, like that was a pretty dark thing for like a kid to watch, in my opinion, which now people would scoff at because, you know, whatever. But I always found it weird that I eventually got to a point where it was like, okay, I'm going to see if there's something to be afraid of and just be in the dark. And if you sit there quietly, especially if things can get really quiet with you, I mean, eventually your eyes will start, you'll see colors,
tricks,
right?
Yeah.
You'll start hearing things and stuff. And that's why I like the world's quietest room. It's like negative decibels, where the longest a person's been in there was like an hour and a half or less. And like they start talking about they start seeing shapes, they can hear their blood pumping, they can hear their organs functioning, because they're just sitting there and the ears are trying to like pick up anything. And it's the same thing if you go into absolute darkness, eventually your eyes will stop working because your body's trying to adapt. And that's just, again, nope, Bill, for me. I'm just not.
Yeah, I'm still afraid of the dark. We have like literal night lights throughout our whole house. If I don't have to deal with it, I'm not going to deal with it. It's the most primal fear of humans ever. Like,
for a reason,
because it's the unknown. Basically, darkness just represents the unknown. You can't, your like little lizard brain is like, I can't prepare for something I can't see or understand. So it makes you panic. And I stand by that. Fuck the dark. I don't like it. It's not cool.
And where I laugh about it too is that like it could be so bright outside that I can't see. Like, have you ever like walked out, especially like summertime, right? You walk outside and it's like a flashbang. You're like, oh man, you're trying to walk to your car from like the entrance of a building and it's so sunny outside. I feel the same way. Like it's just this alarming feeling of I need my sight, you know.
Yeah.
Uh Google Glass, thank you for directing us down to this path, which leads me to another awesome thing that I wish I would have leaned into, especially when I was younger, or maybe like I'll get a lot of money and I'll do it later. But abandoned like buildings.
Dude, I follow a lot of people that go explore those, and it scares the shit out of me. I don't know how well I would do like on my if I was by myself, I would not do well. But even with like a group of people. But it's also fascinating to see like failed malls or like abandoned malls
Mhm.
are more common now. And if they aren't like, you know, decrepit and like growing vines in them, I can walk into the mall in my town and there's like 3 stores open. And then I can go a town over and there's like 2 stores open. And then the rest are like my mall has LAN parties, like stuff, like where you go play computer games and shit like that.
But
And
it's all connected on the same network or whatever.
yeah,
It's like hard lined. Yeah.
yeah, but it's basically a vacant mall except for like a few department stores that have
Right.
started out. And then to go even further and to go to a place that has just been sitting for like 20, 40 years and see how quickly nature just takes it back
Oh yeah.
is insane.
Vice is not something I really enjoy like reading their stuff. Usually it's topics that like whatever, but I do remember a couple of years back Vice had gotten together with this guy that he was basically like the abandoned mall expert. He was like, I do this. And he was like, hey, can you like, let's do this. When one of the malls, he was like, hey, we have to wear a mask. There's like mold everywhere. Because like part of the ceiling had caved in
Yeah,
and
they get dangerous.
nature was just taking over at that point. And so water and, wildlife and, whatever. But then a lot of those materials that these buildings are made out of, it's crazy because like when we're not sterilizing things all the time, it just turns. Like,
Yeah,
how real is any of this?
I don't remember when it came out, but there was some documentary where they like CGI what would happen if the Earth, falls or fails or humans don't exist anymore.
Oh yeah, it
And
was like
yeah,
on a Netflix or something.
it was either Netflix or like Discovery Channel or something like that. But it
Mm-hmm.
basically gave you like, this is our, best estimate of the timeline of how quickly cities would crumble, roads would disappear, buildings would start to collapse and fall down. And eventually there would be little to no trace of like our existence, or it'd be like, the amount that we have on our like an archaeological dig of an ancient civilization, and that's it. And it was crazy to be like, wow, pretty like relative to the time on Earth, pretty quickly we could just boop, boop, gone. Yep.
Something on the internet recently did this thing where it was like, hey, let me like mess with your time understanding, I guess.
Well,
Right,
time
like
is
you're
a construct and it doesn't exist, but go ahead.
well, and like I'm there with you. I mean I feel that, right? Like it's literally like a made up tool to measure life, which is fleeting, I guess. But
Quick sidebar. I was watching Wife Swap today because it's on Hulu now and it's the old Wife Swaps. Highly recommend. It was fucking beautiful. But there was this dad who he's very like hippy dippy, nothing wrong with that. But he said literally time is a construct. And I was like, I like this guy. And then it translated to I don't care when my kids get to school or like all of that shit. It was like, oh, like, you do have to make sure your kids
you have to be able to function, yeah.
like you gotta I understand, I respect the message, but you have to still help your kids, perform in society, even though we don't, agree with it. But anyways.
uh and maybe I'm about to say this wrong because I don't know when we first found fossils, but it basically was talking about how like I think it was George Washington had no idea during his entire life that dinosaurs existed.
I remember reading that, yeah.
And you're like, okay, yeah, no, that I mean, I'm putting the pieces together that you're presenting here, but but like, why do I know that dinosaurs exist? How does that help me? Like or like if you think about, we have knowledge of like wars and stuff, and it's always like the whole like learn from our past. But then like during our lifetime, there's war, and there's going to be more war, and war is going to just keep going. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, now you're just confused all the time of like, okay, well, George Washington didn't have to, deal with dinosaurs. I don't know. It's just strange to me, man, because you're not wrong. It's also fleeting, and we get these little blips of it. Like, hey, how serious is this? Like you get in an argument, or like you get mad, someone cuts you off, and it's like, really take a second and meditate on the fact of 25 minutes. Are you still going to be mad about it? In 1 month, are you really going to be able to go, oh yeah, well, last Tuesday at 3:15, this Volkswagen like cut me off on, I-35 going. It's wild to me, man, because I think it's really easy. I don't know how we got here, right? This is supposed to talk about failure, and now I'm talking about like, how did we get to the point where I think there are people that probably admire watching TV shows where it's like ghost hunters, and that whether they're making a show or not, it seems like they genuinely believe what they believe, and they're like, dude, this is happening to me.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would, if I got snatched up by a ghost and it was choking me, and then it overtook my body and I beat the crap out of like my coworker. I don't think I'd be like, and next week on Ghost Hunters,
And
I'd be
we're
like, hey,
going back. Well,
yeah,
it's funny because that episode earlier on, one of their like female crew members, she like got assaulted, or like, the ghost fucked with her or whatever. And she, at the end, they're like, and she never came back. We'd never talked to Christy again, or whatever her name was. And it was like, is
did you
that
guys
true?
fire her because she just assaulted somebody, or
No, the ghost assaulted her. But she assaulted the ghost and then they fired her. Yeah.
yeah, well, it was like a whole HR thing, and they're like, she sexually assaulted the ghost. It's
Oh
not,
my God.
we will not tolerate it. Is over. The one of the worst things that I used to really enjoy cinema, but when I was a kid, I believe I was in 5th grade. I could have been in 6th grade, but I'm pretty sure it was 5th grade. I was like 11, I think, and I saw the Blair Witch Project, and I legitimately believed that a company found this found footage, and then they were like, hey,
Yeah.
we're going to show this to the world. These people didn't act in anything else, right? So now, of course, we have like IMDb, whatever, but I will never forget years and years ago on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the girl that like cries into the camera and she's like, I want to say I'm sorry. And like, and she has snot running down her face and she's like crying and like whatever, was in an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And I was like, holy crap. Like, you don't forget that face. Like, that scarred me as a kid, right? And then I looked up like the other people, and they've been like writing movies and being in commercials, and like I think they just had to fight. Like, it was like, hey, for X amount of time, you just have to like stay out of the public eye.
Well, you want to know, I'll one up you on believing a movie was real as a child.
Here we go.
I don't know.
Fantasia.
I can't blame my parents. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know whose failure it would be because I was a kid. But I used to think that Forrest Gump was a real person. Like, he was a real guy that did all those things. And I fucking loved Forrest Gump. Like, number one, probably a little too young to take that in, because I watch it as an adult all the time now, and I'm like, that's some heavy stuff.
Oh yeah, that was some real talk, as the
Imagine
kids would
like
say.
8-year-old me going like, that guy ran across the country. That's amazing.
Yeah. And that was the lighthearted part.
It was, yeah. So that,
Okay, but like, so 8-year-old you hadn't seen anything else, because Tom Hanks did a bunch of like not kid-friendly movies back in the day. I mean, even Big was more for adults, right?
yeah, I would say like that was probably the first Tom Hanks movie I saw. until I was like maybe a preteen. So like for a while, I just thought,
I mean, he did Toy Story, but like, there's no way you could have
yeah,
known.
it's animated, so I wouldn't know that. Yeah.
Man, that's wild.
I don't remember when the realization was. And I think for a while, like I thought Tom Hanks himself was like that person. And then I was like, no, it's just based on a true story, because I had heard it was based on a book, which it is, but it's
Right.
a fiction book. It's not real.
And then like, I don't know, maybe a few months from now, we're gonna go on a rant about how you found out that Harry Potter was in fact not real. And I'm gonna be like,
are you telling me that magic isn't real right now?
Are you saying that Hogwarts isn't?
I'm gonna get my letter.
Yeah, I have to go, and then the camera just cuts off. Speaking of the camera cutting off, it's that time.
Oh, fuck.
Bro, I like checked the time and I was like, wait, are you serious? And I was like, no. But time's a construct,
I was
so it
about
doesn't
to
matter.
say, like, it doesn't even exist.
Welcome to our 5-hour episode, brought to you in part by Telluride.
Kia Telluride.
Yeah. Kia's gonna hit us up and be like, hey, cease and desist immediately. We do not understand why you keep trying to.
We do not represent Kia or Telluride in any way.
Unless they want us to, and then they can come on down.
Get your Telluride and drive off a cliff.
In Telluride. Oh yeah, it's in Sunset.
That's how I want to go. I've just figured it out. I'm gonna get
in a Telluride.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard they're pretty luxurious. Yeah.
Yeah, just die in Telluride. In a Telluride.
Yeah. And like, once you find me, just take that and put it into a hole, all as one. Like, I am a part of the Telluride at that point.
Yeah, I'll make it work. It'll be the best way to go out.
We can do it together. It'll be like Thelma and Louise. It's gonna get real dark.
I was like, except like extremely dark.
Yeah, too dark to handle. Well, hey, I had fun, man. That was
Yeah, that was a wild ride. We covered a lot of ground. We started on our own failures.
And if anybody wants to ask the question of like, how does this have anything to do with failure? You tell me, bro. You tell me.
And the comments are just like, you're a failure.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's what I expected. So jokes on you, I guess. Oh gosh.
Just have to say Google Glass, and that's it. We're just gonna blame it on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I click my glasses, and it just.
I would be so upset. I'd be like, after all the stuff, you could have showed that. That is incredible.
All right. So if you liked all of our garbage,
our shenanigans,
that's a better way to put it. Yeah. If you think Sam should watch Shrek, please comment.
I like it.
Actually, like, we should open the door to Shrek memes in general, because I feel the internet can be pretty vicious with that. And I thoroughly enjoy them. So rate, subscribe, and send us your Shrek memes.
Okay, you've opened the door. I do not want to imagine the floodgates of the repercussions that are coming, but
it's going to be totally worth it. You can find us on all socials at Friends of Failure. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, the whole thing. And then our favorite part, send in your failures. We will eventually be putting together a listeners episode and just read those out. You can call us at 916-304-3345, or you can email us at friendsoffailurepodcast@gmail.com. These can be personal stories, anonymous stories, funny, serious. I mean, you can tell us about anything. Just, use this as your diary.
I love it. I'm all about it. I think we are here to document, the human experience,
which is failure. And, that's all we do.
Well, that's the only way we're going to grow and descend into greatness or
madness.
Actually, or speaking to ghosts in real life. And once Ghostbusters is a real thing, I don't know how long I'm going to make it, because that's horrifying.
And on the next episode, we're going to do a Ouija board.
Never saw Sam again. And on that note, just remember, guys, life is happening for you, not to you. So go out there and fail, but don't do a Ouija board.
Or do.
Don't do it.
If it's not I'm stronger than you, it's I'm wiser than you, I'm more loving than you, I'm more tolerant than you, I'm more sophisticated than you. It doesn't matter what it is, but this constant competition is going on. This is the secret. This is the secret. You can't make a mistake.